Paul's the CEO and founder, and I've been CTO for ZING since November 2019, so just before the pandemic started. And today, what we're going to talk about is what is the challenge that ZING is trying to address, because it's important to understand the business challenge before you dive into how agility has helped us actually deliver. In 4 months, we came out with the basis of the full ERP framework from the day we started, and then started iterating right after that. So we're going to talk about product, platform, people, and process, and just touch a little bit on COVID and what's the pluses and minuses that COVID has had in terms of an impact on us. And for each of these subjects, we'll talk about the pitfalls, but also some of the learnings that we've had as we go through. We'll talk for around 25, maximum 30, and then we've got 15 minutes for questions right after that. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Paul to talk to us about the ZING challenge.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for having us here today. Yeah, as Phil said, our little company's only been around for a little while, but we're really hitting our straps. We found this problem when my wife and I created our own small business and couldn't believe just the lack of technology to run a small or medium-sized business. And all those things on the screen there, they're all very real if you want to be successful, particularly in a digital age. I needed to assemble 12 pieces of SaaS software that was costing me some $700 US a month, and that is not scalable, it's not practical. So we got together, Phil joined us, we thought about this and said, well, how about we back ourselves and we build this thing called ZING. Let's go to the next slide, Phil. So we went from complexity and difficulty using technology, and people are frightened of it, and it's costly, to a simplified ERP. We make it very, very simple. It's all in one, from websites to e-commerce to CRM to marketing, staff management, surveys, feedback. We wanted to make sure it's end-to-end and easy to use and effectual, so that you can measure and ensure that you have a successful business. It's gone very, very well. We're in the market now. We have salon chains joining us. We've been approached by medical clinic practices. We have counsellors. We have chiropractic and physiotherapists and gyms approaching us. And why? Because it's easy to use, it's end-to-end, and it's affordable. So we couldn't have created this if we didn't follow our Agile principles. We're a small team, and we worked very, very closely together, and we'll share that story with you. Just go to the next one, Phil. So I want to talk
about the product. Yeah,
just a little bit about the product and how we got there. Phil, share with everyone this slide.
Yeah.
This was before COVID. We spent a week in Slovakia at Phil's home, mapping out the entire customer journey. And as frustrating as it was, we found so many areas that a customer touches a business. And from this, we were identifying the software engines that we're about to start building. This is actually Phil's wall. And also evolutionary, just enough design. We just had enough to get started. Let's start writing the software. We knew what the vision was. Our architects are the smartest in the bunch. And we got cracking in the November of 2019. Next one. So this is us together pre-COVID. We were called Service Quick. That's the name of our company. We did an amazing rebranding exercise with some fantastic people from Lithuania who helped us come up with the name ZING. And in fact, let's give credit to Phil. He came up with it actually. Because he was asked, what do we do? And don't tell us about the technology. And he said, we put a ZING in business. And that's exactly what we do. So this is us together before COVID hit. We are very, very fortunate in a small business, a SaaS business, to have a real life customer. And that was the salon business that my wife and I had set up. This is the team there. We started testing in the salon in the April, only 5 or 6 months after we started coding. This team went through a lot of suffering because anyone who has released version 1.0 of a SaaS platform knows there's a few gremlins in there. They did a wonderful job. They are running fully on the entire platform now. and that's a credit to them, and it's been a great help for us as well.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think while the three main points on the left, which is clarity of vision, evolutionary design, and testing with real customers, was key to getting our product fine-tuned and developed, there's always pitfalls. And one of the biggest pitfalls is that the devil is in the detail. So just to give you an example, one of the requirements we had was, we need to void a transaction. So somebody makes a sale and they say, oh, we just want to cancel it. It was a wrong sale. And it just sounds so simple. And we did an estimate, said, oh, that'll take about 3 or 4 days. You just uncover it just a little bit, and oh my God, the complexity under that. So as we peeled it back, we had 4 pages of just questions and considerations and problems. So be careful of that it's not as easy as things seem on the surface. And the second one, Paul, maybe you can talk to. It's about mapping the money you have versus what you want to build.
Yeah, and vision is one thing, and everyone must have a strong vision and stay on the course. But you actually have to feed the machine. It's not free. We're a startup, so we're only just started to generate revenue. So you need to convince people to back you. But you still have only limited funds. So then, therefore, we've got to manage the scope. We've got to trim back the team. We've got to prioritize. We traveled around with a PowerPoint and a vision and raised nearly $2 million, which wasn't bad. It's pretty good, but we do have a burn rate. So we have to, Phil and I and the team, every week, we're always tuning that backlog. What is the priority? And now that we've got real customers on board, they are the priority. We're listening to them. And it's very, very iterative, and it's been super successful.
I think one of the key messages here is, while we study the theory and as Agilists, we're easy to sprout, prioritize the backlog and then people can pull from it. It actually is so important in reality. I mean, if you don't do that, the developers and the team just don't know what to pull next. And there's so much of start and stop. And to be honest, even with all this, we have started and stopped a couple of times on things. Oh my God, this is more important. So we run Scrum bound, so it's a continuous flow. We don't do Scrum by itself. And it's a constant feeding so that the developers can pull from the pipeline. And now we'll go into the platform. So what's important for agility that we found is that it's not just about doing Agile, being Agile, living Agile, the product. It's also the platform and the technology that matters. It does matter. And if you look at this is our platform as we see, as we use now. So on the right-hand side, you've got our design. So this is where the UX, UI piece happens with Mockup, Figma, Zeppelin, and Sketch. Then we've got our main stack, starting with Amazon EC2, Docker, Ubuntu Linux, Postgres, Java, Python, ActiveMQ, Spring Boot, Angular, etc. That's the main core of our things. Then you've got our testing, alerting, and monitoring, so Sonar, Selenium, Prometheus, Grafana, and Thing. And this is vital. I'll come to this in a moment. And then you've got the management tools that are needed to actually enable this entire build. You've got third-party integrations for payment gateways, etc. And you've got the enabling tools down below like Slack and Box and Jira and Confluence, etc. And it's a complex environment. So what's important for this, for fast delivery, is to build it cloud native and microservice architecture. So that's everything is built with microservices. It's scalable so that you should plan from day one to be able to scale and to use as much as possible the open tools. Now, some of these you have to buy, of course. It doesn't mean open is free, but they're not locking you in. And that was one of the key decisions we made. So even Amazon, even though we use Amazon, we can move to any cloud provider tomorrow if we want. And that's the decision we made as we chose let's say, the entire stack on which to build. Now, all sounds great, but be careful of the complexity. As you saw from the previous picture, it's almost impossible to find God, the one person that knows everything in this entire environment. So you have to have specialists looking at different areas of the things. refactoring is a constant issue. If you expect to build it right the first time, forget it. You will be there for 2 years. So we just build it and we change it. So change is the only constant, and that's so important to keep in mind when you're actually designing and coding, testing, designing, coding, testing. And at the same time, we quickly realized, because of the complexity of the platform, monitoring and alerting from day one was essential. Making sure the logs are all done, you can actually read the logs, the alarms go off, and living DevOps is essential from day one. So they develop it, you have the entire progression through the pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline, and then you monitor it in prod. So the platform piece plays a very important part in agility. If you're using the wrong tool set and an older methodology to stack itself, makes it more difficult. And now we come to the most important part, I think, in all the 4 Ps, which is the people part. And if you look at that today, fortunately, I've not met face-to-face most of the people here. So we've got people in Wales, Holland, Slovakia. You've got the list here on the left, all the way down to Singapore, working across different time zones. Zoom's our holy grail. And it is an advantage, but it's also a disadvantage, which I'll come to in a moment. One thing is very important, and the high bar is not about sitting at the bar and drinking, which we do quite a bit, even on Zoom calls. What's important is to be absolutely good in setting a high interview bar so that you get great people in, and our interviews end 1 month after they join us. And in that month, we know for sure whether this person can cut the mustard or not. And we have, fortunately, let go more people than we have hired. Now, you may think, oh, what does that mean? That actually means that if you don't cut it, there's no space in the team for us. We want the best, and that's the only way to build great product, is to have great people. And if you want great people, you can't compromise. Now, that means, I'll come to the other points, the culture. You have to have the right culture, because good people will not stay for money. I mean, the startups can't pay too much anyway. Yes, we give shares as well, but most of it is, you can't compare what we pay to top corporates. So why do they stay? Why do they come? And they come for the culture. It's at the bottom, as usual, the respect, trust, openness, fairness, and caring. We've had 75% of our team go down with COVID at some point or the other. We're now 20 devs all over the world. The engineering team is 20 strong. And almost 80% of them have had COVID. So you have to care, be in touch, find out how it's going remotely. And on the other side, the most difficult piece that we've had to focus on is collaboration. I cannot tell you what a struggle it's been, because Zoom fatigue is a reality. How long can you stay on Zoom? So people drop off Zoom, and in the collaboration sphere, they jump onto Slack. But Slack is asynchronous, so there's a lot of lag time. If you post something on Slack, the other person's busy, they come back in an hour, then there's switching loss in between that. So we've really had to struggle to keep encouraging and promoting and asking and literally organizing that people jump on Zoom calls for design sessions. You have to do all your design, not with documents, not with Slack, but on Zoom. The actual coding and pair programming, they also do a lot of that on Zoom together. Highly iterative, as I said, constantly we have 2-hour drops. So we have drops to production every day at the minimum, but every 2 hours we need to check in the code and run it through usual, Jenkins and the test servers, etc., but also share it with the other people that are our co-developers, have the shoulder check, do a PR, and then take it forward. Empowered teams, they can pull work, they can change designs, they can discuss designs, that's fine, but they have to collaborate. And finally, as you will see, this is our constant retro wall where we have retrospectives and everybody contributes. Miro is golden, and we take it from there. All great. On the left-hand side, global talent pool. You can find great people all over the world, set a very high bar for entry and retention culture. But here, we struggled with part-time work. We initially started off with people saying, oh, I'd like to work 4 hours and 6 hours, and I have another project as well. And we thought we can take good people who do this, but it doesn't work that way. Forget it. This is a full-time and more job. And it's hard to find gemstones. So it's very hard to find good people. And once you find them, you have to love them and hold on to them and nurture them and nourish them. The other interesting thing is this aspect of discipline. And Jason Yepio wrote a great article recently about the need for being explicit about your rules and processes today, even so in a distributed remote workforce. Since we are distributed, there's more need for discipline because you can't read body language, which you would normally do if you're sitting across each other. You can't read nuances in different things. So you have to be more disciplined. And I've hated it, but I've had to even write down how we write our stories in Jira. What is the format? Now, there are hundreds of them, so we don't follow the standard structure, but we've got our own models that we can use. And you have to write it down. So be careful of that. You actually need more discipline if you want to deliver fast in a remote distributed team. And that brings us to the final piece, which is the processes. Now, in terms of the processes, what can I say? This is my desk. I mean, you have to be absolutely agile to the core. And that doesn't mean actually working out while you're doing stuff, but it actually means living agility. Forget it, especially in today's world. If you want to deliver fast, I say that business agility has been empowered by COVID. There's almost no other way you can deliver effective, great software fast other than using all the principles and values of business agility. The DevOps mentality is fundamental, and this gives you an example of, we just release. And then despite the testing, we said, oh my God, select your plan became select your plane. Now, we're using people from all over the world. I mean, English is not many people's mother tongue, and you do get slip-ups. But if we can change, we can hotfix within 15 minutes directly. We can drop to production every hour if we want. So the whole automated testing, automated continuous integration, automated testing, continuous delivery, so automated deployments in the CI/CD pipeline, and then into production has to be done from day one. You don't get that right, and you will churn and churn and churn. So just to give you an example of one of the problems we had, we were releasing, with a small team of us, we were about 12 people then, we were releasing about 15 different, stories, you can call it, per day into production, per 2 days into production. And we were getting bugs. We were getting, the quality of the release was not as high as we expected. So one option was, let's not do it every second day. Let's do it once a week and test it thoroughly. That's the natural reaction. But that's exactly the opposite of what you need to do. So rather than release it every 2 days, we started releasing it every day. So the amount we released became smaller, it was faster, and we could test and we could correct much faster. So now the quality of our releases has literally gone up in the 95th percentile, just because we're releasing faster rather than slower. So, and it really works. Small squads, so we're around 20 now, but we work in 2-person teams, 2, 3. That's the maximum. And the pods do change based on the features. So we try to keep feature pods. So These two people are specialists in bookings. Those two are in point of sale. These two are in memberships. Those four know the forms, etc., etc. But you still have to rotate constantly. Otherwise, you're going to get single points of failure. So originally, when you go to Agilis, there was this thing about, two pizza squads. And guess what happened in all the corporates that I worked in? Two pizza squads is 10 people. How does 10 people survive on two pizzas? So we've completely compromised that. And the squads have 10 is too big. 10 is absolutely too big. So I think 3 is great. 2 is also okay. 4 maximum. So one of the big challenges we have on the process side is breaking work down. Positioning the size of your stories has to be absolutely essential. I worked in one team before where they had stories of 15 minutes. It's a disaster. You've got thousands of stories in your backlog, and you heard Paul say we've got to continuously groom that. Imagine doing it with thousands of stories. That's too small. So our stories are between 1 and 2 days, but sometimes we were writing stories that were getting stuck as such, and they were taking 5 days, 7 days, 10 days in the back in the in progress column. Too big. So getting that fine point of 1 to 2 days for a story, a subtask, you don't want to write hundreds of subtasks per story. You want to keep the subtasks about maybe 4 or 5 hours, that sort of size. Is really an art that you have to get used to. Now, there is a lot of agile theory out there of using SAFe and using this. If you really want to deliver fast, stick to the basics. The agile values, live it, and the principles. That's all you need. Don't go into heavy theory stuff, even the story format. We don't really I want, so that. No, we do follow the principle of it. So it has to have what you're doing. We do know who the end customer is, and a little bit of why. So you cannot be absolutely, let's say, rigorous and anal about the exact formats here. So process rigidity can kill you. The other thing we found is as our team size grew and changed, we went from 3 people, which we started with, to 5 to 7. Then we came down to 5. Then we went up to 15. Our processes had to change constantly. And we did that with the help of retrospectives. What works? What works? Just keep asking the people constantly and keep improving. And finally, COVID has helped in the sense that our product is almost a product just in time. It's imperative. Every single company has realized that they have to go digital. That means on the web, on mobiles, anywhere, anytime, etc. We're all remote. I think all remote works better than 70% together and 30% remote or something like that. So we're all remote. And we've got access to a global pool, which I don't think we would have gone for if there was no COVID. We would have tended to stuck to a development center, which is more traditional. However, there are some pitfalls. Collaboration has really suffered. I mean, as you saw, it's a design. Design is a team sport, and it's very hard to do it on Zoom all the time. So I miss that. Our team misses that. Morale, we have had morale swings. People lose their enthusiasm, and we have to keep pumping ourselves up, supporting each other, doing little things to keep the morale high and caring for each other. I miss the customer visits. I've not seen ZING working in a salon. Amy and Paul have seen that in many of our customers. And it's not as fun. I miss drinking with my colleagues and my friends and laughing and joking. While we do that on Zoom, it's not the same. So COVID does have a lot of pitfalls, and I'm waiting and hoping everything clears up soon by the middle to end of this year. And in summary, customer focus has been number one, right? You saw our very first customer journey wall, and every one of those is ticked, and we keep going back to that. What does the customer want? What does the real customer want? Pick and have great people and remain agile to the core. That is the way to deliver at warp speed. Paul, anything to add there before we move into the Q&A section?
Yeah, look, it's a good story, Phil. I'm a huge believer of Agile. Phil talked about small teams. It's the only way to work. You know, fail fast, find things out quickly and resolve them. It seems like only yesterday that we were registering our company, and now our baby has grown up. It's out in the wild, and people are actually telling us that it's a beautiful baby, which is always nice. We always thought it was beautiful. Just a quick story. You know, I look at our competitors, and I honestly believe any software built probably more than 6 or 7 years ago is not cloud native. It doesn't scale. Their cost base is very high. What we've created is something that is very slick, easy to use, and really, really cost effective, making it much, much easier to operate. We're speaking with a customer we've just brought on board who couldn't believe what we were offering. And he showed me what he had, and it's a cloud-based application. It's dreadfully slow. It's slow to search. And I opened up my laptop and showed him ZING, and he said, do a customer search. And I said, you know, there's 48,000 customers in this test that we've got here. And he goes, yeah, just go and pick one. Bang, split second. He couldn't believe it. And that's because the architecture was well thought out. The design was good. We knew the market that we were going to take this to. And the only way to build this was following our Agile to the core, putting great people in there and having customers as our focus. But we're still young, and we expect to be pretty successful. But look, thank you very much for listening to our presentation. We'll go to a Q&A.